Right, would you like to hear one more story before we take a break? Are you all dying for a piss? She is. Oh, no, you're grand.
Only one more. If you can hang on, hang on. All right, this is a story that this is a strange story. I found this story, and it was such a little fragment of a thing that I started to noodle about it. And
it's the first time you're telling this story.
it's the first time. Yeah, I've told it in the podcast, but it was one of those ones that I found when we weren't doing a lot of gigs, so I didn't get a chance to put it out in front of an audience.
Give us a whoop if you've listened to our podcast.
Well, if you have spoilers for this and every other story we're telling tonight, because. But if you were worried about that, you wouldn't be coming here to listen to 1,000-year-old stories, I suppose, would you? So this story is called The Plain of Two Mists. See, the other world was islands. There were islands, countless of them, or 3 times 50, which I think is just another way of saying countless. But there were also the plains that were in Ireland, but kind of sideways, like under the hills and through the mist and past the veil, and they were here but not here all at the same time, and they weren't the same as one another. There were different kingdoms with different customs and different ways and differences between the peoples. And there was one that was strange even by the strange standards of the other world, and that was a place called Magh Da Cheo, the Plain of Two Mists, which straight away was a strange thing to be called, because how do you tell one mist from another when they're lying on top of each other? Is it a mist and then another mist, or is it a mist with a mist over it?
Don't complicate it.
I don't know. It was a metaphorical mist was what it was. As you see, they say that in Magh Da Cheo there were 2 mists, and one of the mists belonged to the men, one of the mists belonged to the warriors. And it was a mist that they could call when they were going into battle, because it would hide them until the moment that they wanted to strike. And then the mist would lift and the army would be there, having crept up unseen. The mist was their ally. The mist was their friend. And the men of Magh Da Cheo were warriors, and they were fierce and they were proud, and they were hard men and stern, and they spoke with loud voices. But the women of Magh Da Cheo were very different. And it was said that the second mist belonged to the women. And they didn't use it to hide themselves in battle. They used it to hide their hearts. They used it to keep their secrets. And there was a woman who was married. She was married to one of the great chieftains of Magh Da Cheo. And she'd hidden herself so well that she'd forgotten her own name. She was just known as the wife of Fergle. And Fergle's wife, well, she was dutiful the way that the women of Magh Da Cheo were dutiful. She hid her heart behind soft smiles, behind that magic mist. She rarely spoke, and when she spoke, she rarely gave her opinion. Never unless she was asked directly, and if she was asked directly, it was, sure. And a little look aside, and don't worry about me, and I'll have the small piece of cake, and don't be asking me about my opinion for anything, I'll just go along. She went along with everything. She was married to a great chieftain, and they had a daughter, Dargrania, beautiful daughter. And the wife of Fergle, she raised her daughter and she taught her, you mustn't speak loudly. You mustn't run and play with the boys. You mustn't dirty your dress. You must sit with your knees together and upright. And when you're in mixed company, don't speak unless you're spoken to. Keep your heart hidden. That's how you keep yourself safe. And when her daughter Dargrania said, safe from what? Fergle's wife couldn't answer. Maybe she'd known the answer to that at one point, but she'd hidden behind a mist and she'd forgotten it herself. And she was pretty sure she was happy because she was married to a very important man. And that was probably the same thing. She didn't like to examine herself too closely. Anytime she tried, she'd get lost in a mist. And she would unaccountably start weeping without realizing why. So she just pushed that aside, pushed it all the way down into the mist, carried on smiling. Now, one of the things that Magh Da Cheo was famous for was their hospitality. They would entertain contingents from other places in the other world. And one of those places was Magh Mel, the plain of honey. A wonderful place, by all accounts. Now, the people of Magh Mel were different. They were a little bit jarring to Fergle's wife, to be honest with you. They were very loud. They were very exuberant. The women were frankly shrill. And she didn't quite know how to handle these people. They kept asking her her opinion, which she actually didn't know, usually, because she'd become so used to going along with things that no one asked her. Why would they ask her? Deflect, quickly, ask somebody else. And there was one man among the contingent from Magh Mel, and he was Ucky, son of Saul. Now, it had never, you can just, like even the name is hot. She'd never really considered.
But you would like.
She'd never really considered, like, if she liked men. Like, she was married, obviously, and she had a daughter. She knew how it all worked, but like, she'd never really been into anybody before, you know? She was the one who was supposed to be pretty and attractive. She'd never really felt it go the other way until she saw Ucky, son of Saul, and she went, oh shit.
Pretty fucker.
It was a little bit difficult to keep her composure. It was a little bit difficult to shove that feeling back behind the mist. It was a little bit difficult to do anything except blush and stammer when she was in the same room as Ucky, son of Saul. And she was mortified to realise that he had noticed. The worst thing that could possibly happen when you have a crush on someone inappropriate. Not only had he noticed, but he was kind of giving her the eye. Scandalous. Dreadful. She couldn't possibly what? Never mind, put it in the mist. Don't think about it. She managed to push all of this aside. It took a lot of energy and it took a lot of time. But the following year, she and her husband and their daughter and all their followers, well, Fergle came to her and said, it's our turn to go and visit Magh Mel, because we hosted Ucky, son of Saul, last year, and so it's his turn to host us this year. And she went, uh-huh. Yeah, I remember him. Kind of. He was the really beautiful one. Oh God, what am I gonna do? You went to Magh Mel. They went to Magh Mel. They all went there. And as soon as she was out of Magh Da Cheo, she realised that the mist was left behind her. She could step out of it, and for the first time in her life, in Magh Mel, she was able to honestly see her own feelings. And she looked at her husband and she thought, fuck, I never liked you. Oh no! I don't like being quiet. I don't like getting the small bit of cake. I have fucking opinions. And one of my opinions is that Ucky, son of Saul, is an absolute fucking ride. And there in the house of Ucky, son of Saul, they had their feasts, they had their parties, and she could not stop eye-fucking this man from across the room. And he was delighted. And when it came time for her contingent to leave to go back to Magh Da Cheo, she realised there's no fucking way she could go back. Go back to her miserable prick of a husband. To never saying what her opinion was. To smiling and deflecting and never even letting herself know what she was feeling. Fuck that. So she hid herself. She was good at hiding. She was good at being quiet. She was good at not being noticed. Her husband didn't notice she was gone until he was back home. And even then, it took him a week and a half. He just happened to finally look around and realize that the seat next to him had been empty for ages. He was so used to a quiet wife. She stayed behind with Ucky, son of Saul. She had a great time. You know the really repressed ones who've kept it all down, like really tightly tamped for a really long time, and they finally decide to cut loose. You're just kind of holding on. Ucky, son of Saul was just kind of holding on for the ride. Trying to keep up, trying to stay hydrated. Fergle's wife, I think, was aware that this couldn't possibly last. This was a little bit too passionate. This was a little bit too frantic. But it was a lifetime. It was a lifetime of desire, and it was a lifetime of energy, and she was pouring it all out all at once. But her husband, Fergle, well, once he realized what had happened, he was furious. And he came back to Moimel, the head of an army. And he attacked from the mist, bringing that enchanted mist with him. He attacked 7 times, surrounding the fort of Ucky, son of Saul. And 7 times they were beaten back and repelled. And then Fergle decided he needed some help. So he went to Connacht. He went through the veil, and he came to the court of the king of Connacht. And he said, I need help, because Ucky, son of Saul, has kidnapped my wife and is holding her hostage and refusing to give her back to me. And of course, the men of Connacht thought, that's terrible. We'll help you rescue your wife. She's being held by this Ucky, son of Saul. He sounds terrible. We'll get her back. We'll rescue her for you. We'll bring her back home. And he offered to them the hand of his daughter in marriage to the king's son. His daughter Dargrania would marry the son of the king of Connacht. And so on the 8th attack, the Connacht men on his side, Fergle from Magh Da Cheo breached the walls, and Ucky, son of Saul, the beautiful chieftain, was killed. And then Fergle looked around for his wife and realised for the second time in his life that she wasn't where she was supposed to be. See, she'd already run, she'd already fled. Ucky, son of Saul, had seen what was coming and had asked her to go, not to be there when the last invasion came, and so she'd gone to his nephew Gull, for protection, because she still could not bear to go back home. She knew her husband wouldn't kill her, but she thought that was actually less kind. You know? And the Connacht men came against Gull, and it was the son of the king of Connacht who fought a duel against Gull, her protector. And when he slew Gull, he turned to her with delight in his eyes, saying, look, we've rescued you. We did it. We're the heroes. And her voice that she hadn't used for so long, where she hadn't spoken and she hadn't said what she wanted, her voice poured out a lament for Ucky, son of Saul, her beloved. A lament for Gull, who had been so brave and so selfless to protect her when he had no reason to, no need to. A lament for herself. She'd have to go back to that grey, loveless life where she hid her heart even from herself. And all the while she was singing, she saw the faces of the Connacht men suddenly stricken with guilt and confusion, because they really did think they were doing a good thing. And she came home to find that her daughter was promised to the son of the king of Connacht. And she had one night, herself and her daughter, to talk. Before her daughter, Dargrania, went to the mortal world, was married to the king's son, lived her life there. And in that one night, she tried to tell her daughter to do the opposite of every fucking thing she'd ever tell her to do. Be extremely loud, tear your dress, run around, fucking punch people, swear. Don't sit with your knees together. Manspread as much as you need to. Take up space. Stop starving yourself. Get as big as you need to get. Be in your body. Don't fucking hide your opinions. Know what you want. Know what you love and go after it. But it had been a long time of her telling her daughter the opposite. And so when she saw Dargrania go into the mortal world, she saw her walk with the steady step and the quiet smile of a good woman of Magh Da Cheo. And when she looked at her daughter, she realised she had no idea what her daughter was feeling. That one might have been happy.
I knew it wasn't a happy ending.
I
But
mean,
it's fine.
maybe her daughter was actually happy about it and was fine.
Maybe.
It's ambiguous.
It was very sad music. It was
Yeah.
very sad music. So